Hello and welcome to Scilence, a podcast where women get really honest about surviving and thriving in what often feels like a man's world. My guests are Wonder Women from the fields of science, technology, engineering and mathematics, or STEM, where inclusivity and diversity can be a real problem. I know this only too well. As a female Southeast Asian mechanical engineer, I was kind of a minority within a minority back then. I'm Dr. Shanice O'Mara, an engineer turned broadcaster. Throughout my career, I've worked on and reported on some cutting-edge technology and innovation. And through my television work, I've met some incredibly inspiring women from a diverse range of STEM fields. Talking to these exceptional ladies has often left me feeling empowered, hopeful, and excited about life. I believe Scilence will enrich you too. Every week, a woman in STEM shares her unique experiences with absolutely no pressure in having to promote her accomplishments or guard her impressive reputation, because I've come to realise that everyone is just way more open and relaxed when they're anonymous. So I deliberately disguise my guest voices so that we're just connecting as human beings rather than human doings. It's my hope that you really relate to what we chat about today, and if so, please do subscribe to Scilence and maybe even rate and review the show. I'd love to have your feedback. This week, my guest is in the field of geochemistry. Hello.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. Just trying to figure this whole pandemic thing out and how to live in lockdown and not go crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that, with having roommates and all of us trying to work from home. It's been interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be really, really honest, I am such an introvert and such a recluse that working from home is like my dream thing. And, you know, it's just been blissful because I've been able to do all the things that I've been wanting to do for a long time, but just haven't had time because, you know, the commute is so long to work and, you know, work takes over everything, and I'm, you know, working night and day on my day job. And so it's been really, really great. I think what I'm now missing at the moment is just, you know, in London, we've had a really, really nice spell of gorgeous weather.
Yeah.
I'm just longing to be out in nature.
And
that's what's kind of.
So you guys are on, I'm taking it full lock then and shelter in place then?
Yeah, I heard that like we actually get fined if we're in our cars driving from one place to another without a valid reason to be doing that. So, and like I know people that have actually got fined. So I'm like now just at a point where I'm like, wow, okay, we really shouldn't be going out. Not that I was, but you know, there's even more reason to stay locked up.
That's very different than here. Most of the U.S. is in lockdown, but here in the state of Iowa, so states were allowed to choose lockdown and then choose shelter in place. And there's only a few states still that have not gone to shelter in place because of their governors. And I'll admit, I don't agree with Iowa's governor because we are one of the very last few states who have not done shelter in place. So we're still allowed out for walks and everything, but
do the stats reflect that?
Yeah, they're starting to. So as a lot of people have probably heard, the U.S. has been very behind on testing, very behind on a lot of things. We've only just started better testing now, and we're still going up and up right now. And from some of the colleagues and bosses and different people I've talked to, like the U.S. is starting to flatline a bit, but Iowa, we probably aren't going to flatline till middle of next month. And start flattening the curve so that we aren't peaking, because we only had testing for those people who were entering the ICU. That's one of the very few ways you could get tested here. Like they're only just starting to up our testing finally, and we still aren't in lockdown. And I see it going to the grocery store. Like I'm taking it seriously, and so are my roommates. It's just we can start to see people who are not listening or thinking, oh, it's not that much because we aren't in shelter in place. And we just don't have all the practices, and people are spreading it more without realizing it.
Yeah, I think that's really sort of what happened in London in terms of our understanding of the infection rates is like, you know, at first we were all on the tube, This is before lockdown.
Mhm.
We're all on the tube wearing masks and then we realized that, we can't be taking public transport. And then we realized that we can't be touching surfaces without the risk of
Mhm.
getting anything infected. And then so even getting home deliveries of food and things like that, there's been some risk attached. And now we're just
Mhm.
all super paranoid, but it's taken a while to spread that message.
Yeah.
And how has it affected your work? Like, what has been your day job before lockdown and what's it like now?
Work has been definitely interesting. So my main position and title right now is research associate and technician for my lab's ICP-MS, so an ion coupled plasma mass spectrometer. And before lockdown, I was in the facility all the time, checking the instrument, running around, doing sample prep in other labs, helping our guests and our users keep things up and running, or I was cleaning, building some shelving or boxes that we needed. After lockdown, I've been doing a lot more data analysis at home
Yeah.
using the VPN, so the virtual computer network, to get into my computers to use the software, and also virtually setting up samples for the first hour or so in the morning so I can limit my time in the lab, and then coming home and working from home and running the mass spec remotely the rest of the day.
What does a mass spec do?
The mass spec it's able to tell the chemical composition of whatever sample you're looking at. So the project I'm helping with right now is a forensic glass project that statisticians want a whole bunch of numbers for, and it's able to give back concentrations in ppm, parts per million or parts per billion levels, but it can also tell you how consistent is the chemistry through this, what elements are actually there, and what their masses are.
Wow. So really looking at the structure of things on an atomic level.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. And how did you get to do what you're doing today?
It's been a very roundabout path, I'll admit, as a lot of geologists will say. We don't always come into geology straight away. First, we get recruited from other fields. So I actually entered undergrad as an electrical engineer. And I did electrical engineering for a couple years, and I knew I was going to do geology as a second major.
Wow, they're so
And
different though, those two things, aren't they?
yeah, they are. I love the engineering side and I understood it. And I also love the geology, and I somehow wanted to combine the two. So I went, why not double major?
Wow. Why not make my life really hard?
Yeah. Ended up regretting that decision with how the engineering program was set up at my undergraduate school. And it was set up very rigorous, and I had no room for extra courses. And then I decided one semester I'd finally dive into my geology courses. This was about into the middle of my second year. I did that, and I dove deep straight in. I dove into the core geology courses and was also doing core electrical engineering courses.
Oh
and that semester I was 19, 20 hours because I was doing very heavy loaded courses, and none of them were slacking courses, and I hit burnout.
right.
And kind of realized, I'm going, do I want to be a true electrical engineer who does the circuitry and everything for the rest of my life? Probably not. And I was lucky enough at that time to have a mentor in geology who went, you can be a geologist, and I can tell you have the love for this because you're acting like a 2-year-old in a candy shop every time you come to my office to talk to me. And you can be a geologist but still apply these fields of, you can help with the instruments, you can do the chemistry, and you can understand the electrons and all the electricity and everything needed, because we need those people. We need them doing instrument stuff. We need them helping with the science and progress the ideas. It's just most people don't think about that at first. They think geologists are just rock people, and that's all they look at.
To be honest, when you said geology, I thought of soil immediately. And I was like, oh, she must just be figuring out the chemical composition of soil.
Yeah, no, actually, both my undergrad and my master's thesis was more paleoceanography, paleoclimate
Right. My gosh.
work, and it was also dealt with biostratigraphy, like stratigraphy and biostratigraphy. So what that is taking and looking at the fossils and figuring out what layers of rock came before each other and putting them in the proper order so that we can go find other people can then go find aquifers or oil, or some species of fossils live at certain times with oil windows. And also if you figure out paleoclimate, it could help us figure out and model a little bit for the future and what's going on now.
Mm. I mean, was this all done with a view of getting some fantastically unique job at the end of it where they would pay you tons of money because you're just so specialized? Or what was driving
uh,
you?
the drive was just the interest and the passion, honestly. I kind of want to eventually be a professor in the long run. Like, I love teaching it. Like, and now what I'm looking forward to is doing this on space rocks. So I want to work for NASA eventually.
Wow. Do you reckon you
Since I'm
will?
so since I'm so new to my career field, as I only just graduated actually with my my first grad degree about actually it's going on exactly a year now.
Wow. Gosh.
And it started out as passion and just what I liked, and it's evolved into I understand the instruments a lot better for having my engineering background, and so it's opened a lot of doors
Mm.
because the position I got actually wasn't really a position till I graduated. I'll admit they I knew the technician from who was running the lab from undergrad,
Mhm.
and they started this new lab, and they just had taken on too much work, and there was a contract that they needed help fulfilling,
Oh, wow.
and he knew I he knew I had run the instrument very well. I graduated with a degree, and they wouldn't have to train an undergrad to come in and relearn the system.
Mm.
They could put someone back on it. So he talked to his boss and then went, instead of hiring a temporary undergrad, how about we hire a temp master student who knows the system and we know is good at this?
Wow. So were you even looking for a job?
Yes. At the time, I was actually a teaching aide in a local middle school because I hadn't found anything in my field yet.
Wow. Gosh. And your job sounds so unique and so fascinating and so like specific to you.
Yeah, I've been very lucky to have networked and just had doors open at the right time and had people go, hey, we know she's back. We're needing someone, and she needs a actual job in her field, not as a line cook for. Because while this was when this was being worked out, I had just switched from being a line cook at one of the local sandwich shops to a teaching aide at my father's middle school since he is a vice principal, and went, hey, we need someone to help some of the kids with uh, special education methods. Do you want to do this? And it's a pay jump from what you're doing now. And from that, I then got a phone call in the middle of one of the school days of, hey, so and so wants to talk to you. They might have a job position.
Gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, because I think often when you go into STEM subjects, um, it can be really tricky getting a job at the end of it because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know, like even with engineering, my dad is an engineer, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
I kind of knew what a job at the end of my engineering studies could look like. But my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, without, you know, that knowledge, I wouldn't have had a
Mm-hmm.
clue about what engineering is. So it's it sounds like you've always been guided by a really strong support network around you.
Yeah. And I'm very thankful for it. Like, I've had a lot of help. Like, I'll admit I could not have gotten to where I'm at without definitely the mentors and the connections that were made, because even though, like, as you said, coming out, it's hard to find a position, because I was actually even without a job for about 6 months before I even found the local sandwich shop job.
Wow. And who's been your biggest inspiration?
Uh, my biggest inspiration has been my undergraduate mentor and his wife at the moment. Like, I was gonna say, I don't have anyone big scientist who everyone would notice. It's the smaller ones, the ones who actually put the time and effort into getting to know me as a person,
Mm,
but also getting to know me as a scientist and being able to see my spark and knowing what I'm capable of, and the ones who fought for me through my schooling and helped get me different positions throughout, because um, he, the professor in geology has fought really well for me for so long now. Because in undergrad, I'll admit, being an engineer and hitting burnout doesn't play nice to a GPA,
no.
and it doesn't make it pretty for grad school either.
Mm,
So he helped me as soon as I came in and went, okay, I'm no longer engineering. I want grad school. How are we gonna do this shit? Sorry for the language, but how are we gonna do this? Because I did not have what a grad school would think of highly.
right. And did he do all of that for you because he saw your authentic interest in the subject?
Yes, yes, he did. He saw the passion, he saw the drive, he saw the excitement, and how, as I said earlier, he saw me from day one as. So I actually sat in, the first time I met him was I sat in on one of his lectures, because it was a required low level course for me. And the first day of lecture, after he was done talking, I had to restrain myself a little bit, but I kind of ran up front and asked him about if he had room in his lab, if he had research capabilities, what he did. And I was like a 2-year old running around a candy store for the first time. I was that giddy and excited to be doing that, doing geology.
And he could see that. I mean, that's so inspiring, and it gives. I mean, it's such a message of hope because um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people get help because their parents know someone, or they're related to whoever who can open doors for them, things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like your genuine interest in something is what opened doors.
Yeah, yeah, it has definitely been, because neither of my parents are in the field at all,
Oh
or
wow.
even really going this way, or even went to. My dad went to grad school, but that's so that he could be a vice principal in a school system. Like, he taught middle school science, but he wanted to be administration. So that's the only reason he got his master's.
Hmm.
And my mother is an agronomist, so she's someone who checks the local farm crops for bugs, diseases, and she self contracts out with farmers and will tell them what herbicides or insecticides or different treatments, chemical treatments they should do to help bump the crop, keep bugs away, keep weeds away, that type of thing.
Mm, yeah.
So I went a completely different route than both of
Well,
them.
I don't know. There's still soil
Eh,
creeping in there somewhere, and brains,
yeah.
and you know. So I think nature did help along the way for getting
Yeah.
into STEM, but your genuine passion for the subject really is infectious because it sounds like no matter what, you always wanted to be engaging in something that you genuinely found interesting.
Yeah, that's one of my life mottos is I'd rather give up all the money in the world to be doing my passion and working at my passion than sitting at a desk job daily doing something I hate for the money to then go do my hobby. I'd rather be grumpy and mad at work for something not going right, but still loving what I do than going through the drudge day to day, hating it,
Oh,
really
I
looking forward to the weekend.
I totally agree with you. Um, but you know, on that note, it's kind of funny because I always used to try and explain to my parents, like, you know, because when after getting a PhD in engineering and then
Mhm.
at some point down the line going into television, my parents were like, "Why are you wasting all of that education going into TV?" And you know, I had to convince them that this is really genuinely what I wanted to do. I wanted to communicate
Mhm.
science. I wanted to like see what other people were doing in science and technology around the world, and I love
Yeah.
traveling, and that's why I chose this job. But then when there were down days in television, my parents would go, "See, if you had stayed in engineering, you wouldn't be going through this." And it was like, wait, just because I'm choosing to do what I love, it doesn't mean I'm not going to have down
Yeah.
days. And they just didn't get it. And I had so many discussions with them trying to tell them that down days is just normal. It's part of life. And if you're,
Mhm.
you know, down, like you, just because you choose what you love, it doesn't mean that every single day for the rest of your life, you're just going to be hopping and skipping around everywhere, happy as Larry.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, so like it's really great to hear you say that, like, even if you're grumpy and angry, like you're still doing what you love, because I often have days where I'm grumpy and angry over what I'm doing, but I'd still much rather be doing that than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
I understand the whole love for science communication and everything. I love doing the outreach projects and different things that some major labs and facilities can do because it's so much fun seeing the light in people's eyes as you explain a concept that they never knew. And if you have the passion to back it, that light gets even brighter and they understand and they get excited.
Totally. Yeah. I'm totally with you on that one. What's it been like for you as a woman in chemistry and even electrical engineering? I mean, you couldn't have been in the majority, right?
Oh, definitely not. Like most of my circles, almost all the way through until now, like even my close circles, like now it's getting better because I've slowly collected more female friends in STEM. But before, they're still predominantly male. It was always interesting. It always felt competitive, but
Mm.
also I got lucky at finding groups of guys that didn't always care and they saw I was lucky enough for them in school and like with mentors and stuff. They just saw past the gender and they just saw they saw the passion or the endurance or the knowledge and education and willingness to learn there.
And how did they treat you?
Uh, Usually pretty good. I will admit there has been times with certain colleagues or even classmates that it gets a bit hairy because there always is, and they look down upon you and think that you're not as smart in different things. But with my mentors and my friends, the closer ones, they've treated me as an equal, thankfully. Like
Mm.
they also know that there are things that once in a while, like now at work, it's been interesting because there's giant liquid argon tanks to keep our instruments running that once in a while get moved around the lab because something had to happen. And then I get cornered to have to move it again because it's for my instrument. And I just look at it and go, huh, I forgot I couldn't move that. And I have to go
Right.
ask one of the guys. And a couple times, there's one who I love who's the sweetest. And he makes sure that he isn't being feminist or anything. Like he's trying to break those social norms. And he's going, oh, I moved your tank back for you. And I said thank you. And he went, but I don't want you to feel. I'm going, no, I understand. You're actually being helpful as I don't have the body weight to move this 5 foot tall canister of liquid argon that's probably about 300 pounds at least.
Mm. It's so tricky, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
did you see a difference between the engineering and the chemistry?
Yes. Between like the chemistry and the geology, they were a lot of times like in classes and everyone, it was a lot more open. Yes, I was in even a bigger minority there, because like class sizes were smaller and the than engineering, because what I noticed in engineering was there was a lot of women. There was a lot of organizations for women in engineering and that type of
Oh,
thing.
really? Oh, wow. That is not
With,
what I was expecting you to say.
yeah, our undergrad, we actually had a 40-ish balance, like when you went up higher. So how they did engineering with us was the first couple of years we're all together. There's bigger numbers, all disciplines are intermixed. And then as you specialize, the numbers definitely then did shrink depending on which discipline you went into. Like
Hmm.
electricals had one in 15 to 20, where biomeds were about 50-50 with women. And it
Right.
depended on what track you went. But at the beginning, there was a lot more of us, and they tried to make a point to have us so integrated, I think, to see everyone, to know everything. And so we could interact with more of that. In geology, it's just up here, it's a smaller study at the school that I went to. And
Mm.
so there were a lot fewer numbers, and then also just definitely a lot fewer women, but they were more open too, because once in a while it could be considered the hippie group, shall I say, of more
Right.
the free flowing wild child, the more accepting of different ideas, because geology is so
Total
interdisciplinary.
Mother Earth.
Yeah. And so interdisciplinary that we recruited a lot of people from different areas. So,
That's really fascinating. And I'm just trying to imagine what that must have been like. I mean, did you ever feel disadvantaged or somehow, um, yeah, put out because you were female in these, drastically different fields that are, you know, male dominated for different reasons?
hmm. I'll admit in college, and yeah, college and college for sure, I never did. Like my undergraduate. Grad school, I started noticing it because I went to a different region of the United States for grad school, and there's a different culture and a different underlying like social bias. And I could definitely feel it there. I started feeling like I was an oddity. I didn't fully belong. There was a bit more condescending on things, condescension that people didn't realize they had, but they had, and different treatments towards all the female workers. Like you were listened to, but not always, and sometimes the best way to be listened to was you had to be the big, brash, strong brute of a force.
You
And
had
not
to be
all
like a man.
yeah, and not all the personalities could do that.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and they kind of crumbled under the pressure of not being that, I guess.
Yeah, but it wasn't even fully crumbling. Like it was you didn't I'll admit I did some, but I also backed off a bit because I didn't like being that forceful. Like I
Just
was
wasn't in your
forceful.
personality.
Yeah, I was forceful when needed, but I didn't want to be rude. Like you had to be the rude, abrasive side of things, of the
Yeah.
masculine side, to get anything heard. Like yes, women are considered rude when we vocalize ourselves, but it's not even that. It wasn't that. It was you had to go above and beyond, and even if it was a guy, you would be considered a jerk. Like you had to be that way at times just to get people, especially in that facility, to listen and take you seriously.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've been through similar experiences to what I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is that I just pushed myself to be brash,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so against my true personality,
Yeah.
that I kind of became something I wasn't. And then I basically hit a wall with that, and
Hmm.
I wanted to just get back to who I really was, which I was able to do once I was out of engineering. But when I was in engineering, I kind of um, became very aggressive,
Hmm.
very sort of like defensive, and just not a very uh, comfortable person within my own skin because I
Hmm.
was being something I wasn't. And it doesn't sound like you were affected in the same way. Like, what,
It,
how were you dealing with it within yourself?
from how you just described that, I feel like I had the opposite side where you went more aggressive, I backed off, and I was still uncomfortable in my own skin. I was being too submissive at times. And I had a colleague that, so I started to get my anxiety and my worries figured out towards the end, and I started to get fed up with everything. And I finally, once I refound my voice, I started to feel better. Like once I stepped back into myself and was stopped being as submissive, because I had a lab mate and colleague who it was rough with him, especially for all the women in the lab. Like I didn't notice it at first. I was thinking, oh, okay, he's just being nice, he's being sweet. That's it. But he ends up taking over on projects. Like if you ask him for help in a step or teaching you a methodology or something with your samples, he ends up taking over and just doing it for you and not letting you work through your problems. So it was a problem for me for a bit. And then once I got more assertive and just told him, no, I'm doing this myself, and back, he finally got him to back off. But we had a falling out personally. And so that kind of helped him back off my stuff. And then one of my friends, she's the undergrad and he's a PhD student of the lab. So she had to ask him for help. And he did. But then there at times, he just started taking over and doing her experiments for her, like not telling her that he had moved her samples off the hot plates or anything. And she'd come to me and go, he's doing it again. He's not listening. And I've asked him to stop and told him not to. And I've had to look at her and I'm going, I know you don't feel comfortable doing this. It took me a while too, but you're gonna have to fully, strongly tell him to stop. And then if he doesn't, go to our advisor.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like even though it was kind of unpleasant and like a bit of a tussle, it sounds like you learned something character building for the long term. I mean, being able to stand up for what you believe is right and speak up for yourself is such an important skill to have.
Yeah, very much so. It was very, I'll admit, I am very happy I learned it because I was, yeah, as I stated before, lucky through my early years to have people who supported me who didn't do any of that, who never saw me as a lesser and a non-equal. Like they, for a while, they saw me as someone to train and that type of thing, but they saw me as a colleague and someone who will step up to their level and will get to their level in due time, in due course, but not someone who was lesser than or who needed help all the time because of being female.
Yeah. Do you know, you're just making me realize something, which is
Hmm.
that, you know, it's so important to have someone that's in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, we can have a lot of pressure from, say, family, or just there's a lot of expectations on us. And as a
Mm-hmm.
result, like we don't really feel like we've got anyone in our corner. And this mentor that you described just sounds like a gift, because he really sounds like he believed in you. And so when people were being basically assholes and kind of
Mm-hmm.
giving you a tough time, you had just the knowledge that there is someone that really believes in you and sees you for who you are.
Yeah, and I'll admit it was rough during grad school because he was the mentor was about 2,000 miles away from me. And so it was hard to always remind myself that, oh, wait, I do have people fighting in my corner. I do have people who support me. And it was when I was finally refining my voice and reaching out again more to any of my support system. Because I'll admit, I kind of went a bit radio silent on people, and reaching back out and having them vocalize, going, "We believe you," or as they showed up for, I had them video call in for my thesis defense and different things. And as they afterwards gave me comments and said different things of, "Oh yeah, now we see why you were struggling. Now we see why you were having issues with so and so, and your research graduate advisor and stuff." It was nice to have that confirmation of, they thought it was just distance and, oh, grad school is going to be tough, but when they came back in and saw and got all the pieces, it was nice to have that affirmation from them and that support system going,
Yeah.
"Oh, wait, no, sorry, we were wrong. You were right. You were actually dealing with assholes," as you
Yeah.
stated earlier.
Yeah. And, sometimes people don't get that affirmation from anyone,
Mm-hmm.
and they start to question themselves, and um, they start to wonder, wait, am I the asshole or are they the asshole? Because I really
Yeah.
believe that this is unfair treatment, but no one's backing me up on this. So maybe I'm the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and I just, talking to you is kind of reminding me of just how important it is to at least have one person in your corner, just
Mm-hmm.
one, you
Yeah.
know, that's all it takes, just one person to believe in you and to really genuinely see you for who you are. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, so it sounds like you have developed a lot of resilience as a result of what you're going through. And it sounds like you were
Mm-hmm.
already a very strong personality, like before you started all of this journey.
Yeah.
Like, where do you see your career heading? Like, what are your plans for the future?
I've actually had this question asked a lot of me as of recent, just because I'm a I'm new in the field, but also with getting a new instrument, we had the main software guy from Scilence Technologies come out and help set stuff up, and I ended up going to lunch with him once and different things. And he went, "So where do you see yourself when you grow up?" And I'm going,
When you
"I'm
grew up?
yeah." And he knew I was like 26 and stuff, but he's just going, as since we all try to find an adultier adult at times.
Yeah.
um, I went, "Not sure. I still want to teach, because right now, how I seen my 5-year plan of after undergrad was my master's and then straight into my PhD. But things did not go perfectly according to plan. And my master's advisor recommended that I take time off, I refine the passion, I refine the drive, and see if a PhD is actually for me."
Mm.
It was his way of saying of, "Yeah, I see a little bit of a spark, but I wouldn't recommend you for. I don't see you going on." And he didn't have the faith in me. And getting back, going back to a couple courses, back to the local university just to sit in on a talk or two, being around the people that helped ignite the passion to start with and helped me like kindle the flame, reminded me why I love the field and why I wanted to keep doing it. And being with them and talking to them, they went, I mentioned that I was still thinking, they went, "We say go for it if it's right, and if you want to, we will proudly back you and stand strong with you," because we felt bad after you defended of going, because it's the mentor and his wife. They both teach and are professors of geology, and they both are very part of my strong support system. And they
Mm.
both went, "Yeah, after your master's, after your defense, we were both pissed. We were mad that someone had crushed that spirit that we had worked so hard and put so much effort and education into, to tell them that they aren't worthy of going on, to when we can actually see the spark, we can see it. It's just you guys crushed it so much that." And being back, I'm still wanting the PhD right now. It's interesting. I'm going, and it's nice to be working and having a bit of break from schooling, kind of
Mm.
like a version of a postdoc of, I've been in school so long, I didn't know what it was like to breathe and not be in school.
Right.
So what I see happening is working here for a little bit, for a couple years, and then figuring out where I want to do my PhD with, who I want to do it with, and finding another good mentor, not just someone who can save face. I've learned that I'm going to ask all other grad students that they've had before how the professor actually is, and then from PhD, hopefully working with NASA, because I was looking at jobs a week and a half ago now with my roommates, just because I didn't know if I was going to have a job, needed to find one here soon or not. And I found the perfect job out in Maryland with NASA doing almost exactly what I do now. And as I started the application process, I then saw that it was a postdoc position and just went,
Right.
damn it.
That's a
Well,
sign.
I know that's a sign. I need to still go get that last degree. I need the PhD. So hopefully here in the near future, I'll be going back to school, getting the PhD, and then either working for NASA as in one of their direct facilities or
You should apply
working.
anyway and just say
Yeah.
that I'm just applying anyway because I hope one day to have this job, and I definitely want to do my postdoc, but like, I just want to get to know you now.
Mm,
And then we'll say hi again in a few years' time, but I just wanted to put my name out there.
that's a good idea. I wasn't sure if I could because they actually asked for my dissertation in the
Right.
application. So,
But just make friends with the people there anyway, because I mean, it
true.
sounds like that's where you want to end up. And, the sooner you get to know who you might work with and just get to know the
Mm-hmm.
organization, the better. I mean, it's not going to hurt, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so, yeah, it'll be NASA or it will be as a professor at a research university who, yes, does teaching and also research. Like I didn't want the balance, but then working on NASA grants and hopefully Mars rocks or something that comes back with the new rover when it comes back because of everything and that I know that they've set up on the new 2020 rover to collect course like rock samples and everything.
God, I'm so excited for you because I just feel like NASA's on your horizon. But one thing that when you were talking about, this person that was really negative about you doing a postdoc, like that person's also a gift because I
Mm-hmm.
find that when people say negative stuff or they put you down or whatever, you can either choose to believe them or you can go, I really don't think you're right. And here's why. And then you go off and you prove by going and talking to the people that do support you and reminding yourself that actually you really do want to do a doctorate and this is your path and that person can go jump. And it's like, you know, you never would have had that validation
Yeah.
if someone hadn't told you something negative.
Yep. I'm only snickering and laughing because that's very true about my spirit, and I'm very, very stubborn about that. I'll admit, I've been told that is one of it's both a good trait and a bad trait for me because
Yeah.
I am very stubborn and I'm very good at once someone tells me no, good at fighting back.
Yeah.
But it can also get me stuck in a rut for a while. That's why I hung on to engineering as long as I did. I had an X my freshman year. Like I was kind of floundering towards the beginning of it just because I wasn't putting the time and effort that I needed to into it. But he told me that, hey, why not stop? Why not become someone who does HR? Because I've always loved communicating with people and talking to them. He went, why not do that? And he was very set on finding his missus while in school. And he went at one point, he didn't say this at that exact time, but later on I got told by him that I could be a trophy wife easily. He was going to be an engineer, he was going to be a doctor. He'd make the money and I didn't have to. And so I then,
Wow.
after breaking up with him, I ended up being very stubborn, sticking with engineering for maybe a bit too long for myself, but
I'll show you.
yeah, very much so. Like he was, because yeah, after he was very set on finding someone to give the ring to because after 6 months after we broke up, he found someone to give the ring to, and she fully said yes. But
Mm.
yeah, he was set on telling me, "Oh, you can be a trophy wife. You can be easily just drop, just become HR, and you're good."
It's it's so difficult, isn't it, as a woman, because um, you know, for me anyway, I so could have become like a trophy wife. I could
Mhm.
very easily have like dropped into that role. Um, but something in me felt like I that wasn't my path. And
Mhm.
every time I've had a guy kind of want to give me everything on a silver platter, I've always gone, no, thank you. I actually want to keep going with the things I'm doing, even though it's really hard and struggling. And I would love to just put my feet up and have somebody else provide everything for me. I'm going to stick with my career. And I've always kind of looked back and just gone, am I completely crazy? Like, why have I opted for the more difficult um, road. But I think ultimately it is because it is more rewarding. And it kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning, which is like, it's not about the riches and all the material stuff. It's really about like personal enrichment.
Yeah, definitely. Like when he said that, basically, yeah, I told him he could F off and run away and not be near me again. It's
Mm.
like I'm just going, I no, 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 I don't want that. Like, yes, you can give me the money and everything, and it'd be nice never to have to wish for that type of support, but if you did marry me, I was still gonna be following my career. I'm not gonna be just one thing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do what I love to do.
But on that note, like, how are you planning to, like, do you ever want to have a family and, all that kind of stuff?
I do very much. I very much want a family. It's one of the long term dreams of mine. I'll admit it's always weird to say out loud is I want to be a happy family matriarch in the end. I want a warming home, but a science home as well. A home that's open to any possibility and you can be anything that you're good at and that you are passionate to follow.
Mm. And are you hoping that science and, a warm, loving home are compatible? Like, because I think women that are extremely capable alpha types, which it sounds like you are, like, really struggle to have that balance between being all mumsy and also being like really ambitious and driven at work.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting. Like, I'm not planning on a family any time here soon just because of still feeling like I'm in transition and everything, and my partner's still in school as well. So it's just, and he's several years younger than me. So it's still just a way off in the future. How is it going to happen and everything going to balance? I'm not sure, but I'll also admit, uh, going to therapy and talking to a therapist has helped me at least realize I can balance them. It'll never be perfect, but I can have both. There's no guilt in wanting both and being able to do both. Like, yes, our society and our world is telling us you have to be one or the other, but you can actually do both. And yes, it'll be tough, but it's back to that whole support system of you have people who believe in you, go for it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I think in all my podcast recordings, it always comes back to the same thing is like it's really important to be able to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and often at the beginning, someone needs to believe in you so that you can learn how to believe in yourself. But ultimately, the goal
Mm-hmm.
is believing in yourself. And
Yes.
I've definitely had, a challenging journey with that because, in the beginning, I really wanted to meet the expectations of others um, before really figuring out what my expectations were for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
now I've, you know, I'm very much focused on just meeting my own expectations, but it hasn't been an easy road, and it's a daily sort of reassessment of how I'm doing stuff. But also a very, very fascinating journey. And, when I look back, I have a bunch of things that I may have done differently. Like, is there anything you look back on and think, oh, it didn't need to be so hard, or I didn't need to make it so tough for myself?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I'm going, it didn't need to be so hard. It could have been simpler. I could have done it better, but there isn't regret in how I did it. I wouldn't change it now going back because it led me to the point that I'm at now. And like even what's said with like the butterfly effect, if you change one little thing, I would have missed something that I actually really enjoy now if I changed that one. And was I happiest during those times? Was I struggling? Yes. Was I happiest? No. Was I struggling? Yes. But now that I look back, it's guided my story to how it is. I wouldn't want to change it. It makes it what I am today and where I'm wanting to go.
Totally. So what advice would you have for any young girls, women, or just anyone in minorities that are thinking, I might try a STEM career?
I'd say keep trying till you find what fits. Just because you choose a path the first time, you don't have to stick with it. You don't have to be a stubborn rut in the mud of just because you chose one, this is the one I'm going to stick to. You're allowed to try everything. You're allowed to change. Go ahead and change. I don't recommend fully changing if it's not right, but I recommend trying everything. And then even like mentors and different people, find someone who supports you, and you might not hit a home run the first try. It might take you 10 to 15, but don't give up. Keep trying, keep going, and you'll make it in the end. We all do.
What a lovely way to end our chat. Thank you so much for coming on to Scilence.
Thank you for having me.
That's it from my STEM guest this week. I am, smiling from ear to ear. I just feel like our conversation was just so heartfelt and so honest and just so comforting, because this episode we've heard from someone who really is just following her heart and really doing what she loves the most, and kind of she has this air of just being really proud of the decisions she's made, even if they haven't been the right ones initially. She just feels very comfortable and comes across as being just happy with the way her life is turning out. Thank you so much for listening this week. Don't forget to rate and review the show, and catch you next week on Scilence.